Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about a transcontinental storm that is currently over California. It will create a bunch of severe weather, tornadoes, and hail in the deep south, and will then proceed to drop a bunch of snow in the northeast, possibly even in the coastal cities of New York and Boston. So let's get right into the video. So this is just our base weather model, the ECMWF, and this is what the precipitation is going to look like. So as you can see, this is where our storm forms right here. It swings across the United States, splits into another one, and drops some snow in the northeast. We'll talk a lot more in depth, but we're also going to have severe weather here in the deep south, in Louisiana, Alabama, Arkansas, and we'll also get into that. Today I have a bunch of graphs. I've spent a bunch of time making these models, making pictures for you guys to simplify it, and this is going to be, I'm going to make this as short as possible. I'm not going to talk that much about the science, so that you guys can understand it, and I really hope you like this because I just spent a bunch of my afternoon on this. Okay, so let's get started. Right here we have, this is just our storm system right here. This is what the energy looks like. So as you can see, there's a lot of energy in one space, and that's what's going to cause 10, 20, maybe even 30 inches of snow in some places, a bunch of severe weather, tornadoes, and then as you see, it's going to split off into a second one right there, and it's going to go into the northeast and drop second round of snow, rain, and wind there. So here we have the Storm Prediction Center. This is the best meteorologist in the world. And basically what they do is they look at the models and they say, this looks suspiciously like a tornado might happen. And depending on how likely a tornado, severe winds, and hail is, they give it a scale of 1 to 6. This right here is a 4 out of 6. The enhanced risk, that's definitely going to go up to a 5. It's almost, I'm positive that's going to go up to a moderate risk, but we'll see. It's not my choice to make, so it's whatever they think is going to happen. So let's dive into this severe weather threat. So right here we have our NAM model. This is a high definition model that shows you like every bit, like the nitty bitty bits of stuff of the weather, not stuff. And as you can see right here, we have our storm system. It forms in the morning on Tuesday, and it goes across Texas, then goes into Arkansas, Louisiana, and our model doesn't go that far yet because we're not fully in range. We'll be fully in range tomorrow. I hope to have a video out on tomorrow so that we can go more in depth about the severe weather. But basically, as you can see here, it's going to continue going through Alabama, and as we saw in Mississippi and then Alabama, by the way. And as we saw in our Storm Prediction Center graph, right here, the worst of it is going to be just in northern Louisiana. And as you can see, that's going to be around 9 to 11 p.m. when those storms are there. Thank goodness this looks like more of a linear system. So tornadoes aren't going to be a huge threat, but they're definitely still possible. And right here, this is the significant tornado parameter. This shows you basically, I think it's on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 being extreme likely of tornadoes, 0 being not likely at all. Right here, this is our weather model, and as you can see, we get the tornado parameter isn't honestly that bad. Like, I've seen much worse days than this. And yeah, it seems like a 1, 2, 3, 4 where the storms are. Tornado parameter can be high if there's no storms, but that just means there won't be any tornadoes. So where the storms are, it's like a 1, 2, 3, 4, so it might actually not even be that bad. And then right now I'm going to show you guys a graph. This is my interpretation of what times the storms are going to be in what areas. So please take a look at this and pause the video if you need to look at this any closer. Okay, now moving on, we're going to talk about the blizzard-like conditions in the north central USA. So around Nebraska, Wisconsin, Montana, North, South Dakota. So as you can see, this is our storm system right here. Blue is snow, green rain, pink is freezing rain, which means that it rains, but then it freezes in contact with the ground. And honestly, that is probably the worst type of precipitation you can have because it's really heavy. It causes branches to fall. It causes, ice everywhere, slip hazard. Thankfully, we're not expecting any of that right here. It's almost a non-existent threat. And then as you can see right there, we have our snow. So let's look at our snow totals. So this is the ECMWF model. We're going to go through all 4 models that I use so that we can see what an average is, and then I'll have my interpretation of everything drawn out so that you can look at your area and say, this is how much snow I'll have, rather than look at these complicated diagrams that I'm showing you. But I'm just showing it just because for some people it might be important. If you live here, it's really important that you listen to this part. So as you can see here, according to this model, some of the higher elevation areas, or maybe not even higher elevation, but just where the storm will drop a lot of snow, you could see around 30 inches of snow. That 38 right there, I would ignore that. It's highly unlikely anyone sees near 40 inches of snow, but I definitely think some areas could get over 2 feet of snow. And if you are in that area, you're almost guaranteed to have power outages. You need to prepare for this. If you might not be able to leave your house, your door might be snowed in, etc., etc. So definitely plan for some pretty big disruptions here. Yeah. So as you can see, this is this model, and then we have widespread 8 to 12 inches of snow. Okay, this is the GFS model. This model is not, it definitely still has a bunch of snow in that same area. So anyone who lives in this area right here, the western part of South Dakota, the southeastern part of Montana, in that area, if you live anywhere near those areas, please, this is going to be a lot of snow. This isn't something you see any day. I know you guys get some snow up there, but this isn't something you'll see any day. This model is much more conservative about how widespread the snow is going to be, but it definitely still shows those snow totals. Now this is the Canadian model, the GDPS model. This model has a lot of widespread snow, as you can see. It's like all across the board, but those same areas getting 20 to 30 inches of snow. Yeah, and so all the models are coming to sort of a consensus here. This is the Icon model, the German model. I personally really like this model right here because it doesn't overestimate very often. So this is likely what you're gonna see. And as you can see there, we have about 2 feet of snow right here. And I personally I think this is the best model to look at. I do still think that right here in the eastern part of South Dakota, we will get a little more snow than this model is showing right here. But I think definitely there's just widespread across the area you need to watch out. And then so here's my interpretation. You can pause the video. This will be my interpretation of where I think the biggest snow totals are going to be. Okay. And then I'm going to show you guys here wind. We will have some wind. This is the highest wind speed that will be measured during that time. Obviously, it's not perfectly accurate, but this is likely how much wind you will see. What's the highest wind? So as you can see, we have across the board high 30s, low 40s, and then in some areas towards Nebraska, South Dakota, you will see possibly even in the very low 50s mile per hour wind gusts. So watch out for that. Wind and snow, not a great combination. Travel is going to be really hard. I would not recommend going out in the streets during this time. We're going to see these wind gusts and the snow around Tuesday, December 13th, Wednesday the 14th, maybe a little bit Thursday morning. But I would say Wednesday, try to not travel as much as you can. Okay, now moving into the Northeast. So in the Northeast, everything is up for grabs. We could have snow in New York City, snow in Boston, no snow in southern Canada, or we could have all the heavy snow in southern Canada, and absolutely no snow in New York City, no snow Boston. It's switching around, but right now all the models are currently at the consensus that the big cities, Boston and New York, are not going to see any snow, and the snow will be concentrated towards the north of them. So that's what we're going to go for right now, but as we know with the weather, that could change very quickly. So this is the ECMWF model. So this is our storm right here. We're going to see a freezing rain. Now, if this happens, we could have some problems with freezing rain. So if you live anywhere in this pink area right here, stay tuned to your local weather station once we get closer to the storm around Thursday or Wednesday. We still expect freezing rain, I'll let you guys know on Monday or Tuesday. If we still expect freezing rain, we would prepare for some power outages in those areas. And then as you can see, we'll have snow, like I said, as of right now. Most of that snow is in the north, and then for New York City and Boston, we'll have more wind and rain. We'll talk about wind in a second. Okay. So then here's the GFS model. So this is just the snow we have currently going on right here. Nothing big, nothing to worry about. And then as our storm comes in, again, seeing a little bit of freezing rain, this time a little more northward. So we're going to talk about that more on Monday and Tuesday when we get closer. And then as you can see with this model right here, the border of snow and rain is right on the border of New York City. So According to this model, it's going to be 50-50 if New York City gets snow or if it just gets pounded with rain. So this model basically looks like the other one, basically in just a little more south. And then as you can see, Vermont, New Hampshire, according to this model, Saturday morning, you're going to see a heavy load of snow. So if that happens, you're going to be dealing with 10, 20 inches there, maybe even 2 feet of snow. And now let's get into snow totals. So according to the ECMWF model, right here, we're going to see over the next 200 hours, so by the time the storm is done, the higher elevations are obviously going to see a little more than this, but according to this model, we're going to be seeing about widespread 8 to 12 inches. And then once the closer you get to the ocean, the less snow, and then some areas could see just under 2 feet of snow. I think this is the likely scenario. This is most likely what's going to happen. Obviously, it can change, but if I had to look at one graph, that wasn't mine. I think mine is the best to look at because it puts all these models together. But if you had to look at one of the models alone, I'd look at this one. This one is usually the most accurate, besides the icon model, which I'll show you guys at the end. Okay, here's the GFS model showing basically the same thing, but as we said earlier, the snow might be a little more south according to this model. And then here the Canadian model, basically showing the same thing. And then the icon model, which is the one I wanted to show you guys, this one weirdly is showing a lot less snow. Now, I do think it's gonna snow, so I don't know why this model is being funky about it, but there's always the possibility, like the small 1, maybe 5% chance that this just goes north and doesn't even affect much of the New England at all. Now that is highly unlikely, and there's only this one model showing that, but that's why you have to stay tuned, subscribe, click the bell so it notifies you that when I release a new video, and we'll talk more about that. And then this is the ensemble model right here. This shows you, it puts 50 models together and gets an average. And this is what the average is right here. So according to this average, New York City is going to see about an inch, Boston about an inch, and then the highest snow receivers are going to see about a 15-inch. I think it's going to be a little more snow than that, but this is just a good thing to look at. It gives all the averages and it shows you where the snow is going to be. And then right here, right now, this is my forecast where I think the snow is going to be. I think this is what you should look at if you had to pay most attention to something, this graph right here. Okay, and now on to the wind speeds. Pause the video if you need for that, by the way. Okay, now for the wind speeds. This is the ECMWF model, and I think wind speeds could be a concern here. Anyone who lives towards the coast could see some isolated power outages with this. As you can see, we got red, which means about 50 to 60, maybe even 70 mile per hour wind gusts on the coast. I think this is going to be a problem. Higher elevations, as you can see, obviously you're going to get a little more wind. Now, the more inland you go, you're going to be dealing with 30s and 40s, which is still substantial, could blow some snow around, make travel a little bit difficult. But I think the highest wind gusts are going to be seen closer to the coast. This is the GFS model. It's showing the most wind gusts. It's even showing a hurricane force wind gust possible right off the coast of Maine. Now, anyone who's interested in any marine activities, avoid anything from basically Wednesday to Saturday. Just avoid any marine travel if you can, because the wind is going to be really bad out there. And yeah, the coast, Boston could see 65, 69 wind gusts. And then this is the last model. GDPS model is going much more conservative on the wind, 40 around the coast and 20s inland. I don't think it's going to be this low, but it's definitely possible. So here's my forecast for the wind. This graph right here shows you what I think the wind speed is going to be based off these models. I think this is a good thing to look at. And then this graph right here that I'm showing you right now, this is just everything. This is the impact scale. On a scale of 1 to 5, how concerned should you be about the weather that's approaching? As you can see, we've got 1 and 2s and some 3s up in the north where that blizzard condition is going to be 1, 2, 3, and even a little 4 in the deep south. I put that 4 there because if you get hit by a tornado, you're not going to know what to do, because if we get a big tornado touchdown there, it could wreak havoc. And I do think that is a possibility. And then in the northeast, we're just seeing pretty much 1s, 2s, and a few 1s and 2s there. And I think there's a 3 there too. Yeah, I think there's a 3. But correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not looking at the graph right now. So it's definitely the wind and the snow and some of the ice could cause some issues up there in the Northeast. So if you're in the Northeast like me, I would definitely watch out, stay tuned, and watch my next video. And thank you guys so much for watching. I'll have another update out for you guys tomorrow, maybe the day after. Thank you so much. Please subscribe to the channels to get notifications on future videos, and just like the video. I put a lot of work and effort to this, and that's basically your way to repay me for this. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Bye-bye.